Whew, that's a dang good shake. What's up, guys? So today we're going to jump into the edit on the AR-15 B-roll that you guys seen. I've had a few of you request to see the timeline on that edit, and so I figured it'd be a good time to share 3 of my biggest editing secrets that I use in almost everything that I edit. Little things that I think could spice up your edits too. So today we're going to go through this edit, and then I'll break down those 3 key tips as well. So let's jump into it real quick. All right, so this first clip, it's a pretty simple clip. It's kind of that opening clip that we talked about. It's got the shells in the foreground and the gun in the background. So to break it down, it's nested. I've added a speed ramp at the beginning and a speed ramp out into the next clip. The clip's moving from the left to the right, same with the next clip to kind of make them flow together. Another thing that you might notice too is where I've added the speed ramp, there is a little bit more blur than usual, and it's more natural looking, but you got to watch where you apply it at. But a little thing that I like to add is a directional blur along with my speed ramps. A lot of people are doing speed ramps these days, but not a lot of people are adding that directional blur, and I think it just gives it that next little bit of cinematic look to it. So okay, we'll go right into the next shot. Just a simple wide shot of the gun going from left to right, nothing really added there. And keep in mind, guys, this is all shot in 120 frames a second, so I have like a lot of room to play with on the edit, slow things down and stabilize things a lot. So this next shot, kind of a zoom in on the AR. And so this clip is interesting because I was going from left to right. I'm not actually going towards the gun, but I keyframed in some zooms. And that's another little secret that I like to do, to kind of make clips blend together. This next shot too, it was going in towards the gun, but I didn't like the slow movement, so I added keyframes of zooms in with this one as well. Next shot, same thing, keyframed, zoomed in to out, or out to in on that one. Now we got a speed ramp transition with some directional blur on the end. Boom, coming out. Add a little bit of zoom from in to out on that one as well. Okay, this shot's a pretty cool shot just because it's got some foreground, it's got the bush in the front. This one was actually a handheld transition. So I'm gonna shut this volume down here. So I actually speed ramped it after I slow it down, because when you slow it down it doesn't flow well, but I actually just panned transition down towards the ground, and I just added a speed ramp right there with some directional blur, and it actually looks pretty sweet. And then the next clip, same thing. I thought that it matched really good, so I added some directional blur and a speed ramp at the beginning to kind of make them flow together, as well as a zoom out, I believe. I kind of zoomed in on it with a keyframe, and then I zoomed out just to kind of give it more movement. And that's the thing, this gun video, I wanted it to have a lot of movement, but the subject isn't moving at all, so you kind of just have to add the movement in post along with what you've done. Next clip, just simple keyframe to zoom, warp stabilizer. I cut a little bit out to go with the beat, nothing too crazy there. Next shot is a kind of a zoom in shot to show the detail of the gun, and I added a speed ramp as well in the middle. Let's move on. This one was cool, is a close up of the turret, speed ramp out with my handheld movement as well as the directional blur. Going into the next shot, this was also a handheld shot. I added some warp stabilizer here, some directional blur going in, and some zoom as well to give it a little more movement, zoom in. Going into the next shot, we're taking that same rotation. This is handheld rotation, just a little bit of warp stabilizer. That's a cool shot, that's the thumbnail. That one's my favorite shot, actually. Next shot, the 50 mil shot, revealing it from behind the rock. Pretty cool. Pretty cool shot. That one's got a zoom in to out keyframed as well, and a slight rotation to kind of match it with this next shot, which is super sweet. Showing the details of the gun. Speed ramp, and speed ramp with some directional blur added. Another cool shot, kind of scrub through those. They're just kind of slow motion shots of the gun. Another rotating shot, directional blur, and the final shot, which is the close-up of the gun itself, and that's to end it. Boosh. This shot was actually pretty cool because I reversed the speed in this one, and I actually started zoomed in, and then I reversed the speed. So the original clip looked like this, and then I just reversed it, added some directional blur, some warp stabilizer, and yeah, that's how you get that. Anyways, guys, so that's a quick look at this timeline and kind of how I did it. But so I've mentioned a few things in this video. I've mentioned the speed ramping, I've mentioned directional blur, warp stabilizer, and then just keyframing in your zooms in and out. And so what I want to do is I'm going to take a few clips and I'm going to hurry and quickly show you how to do that, how to do these 4 things. So let's select what we want, what looks good in this clip. Select an in point, out point. It's pretty sweet. Drag and drop. Okay, now we're gonna add a speed ramp to this one here. Okay, so you select the clip, right click, go down to show clip keyframes, time remapping, select speed. Now it adds a white bar to the clip, and over here on the left you have a keyframe option, and that's what we're gonna add here. So we're gonna find a good spot, add it, and then we're gonna drag this speed bar up. I crank that up to like 1,000, close to. Try that. Now we're gonna drag this blue icon to the left, and this just spreads out the speed ramp a little bit to make it a little more smooth, and then you can click here as well and drag this little blue icon to the left, and this just smooths out the speed ramp so that it's not so jittery. Doesn't look like it's going from fast to slow so fast. It just smooths it out, rounds out the corners a little bit to make it look a little bit more natural. I'm going to render this. That's being weird. Okay, there we go. So now we've got the speed ramp added. You can see how that kind of adds that effect. So I did that in and out on that first clip that you've seen in the edit. So that's the first trick, guys, is a speed ramp. You can use this. I like to use them for transitions on clips that don't really look that good. And then to top it off, so let's say we've got that speed ramp added. Now the next thing that I'm going to show you guys how to do is a directional blur. So for some reason Premiere messes things up if you try to add things on top of clips. So once you've got your speed ramps where you want them, just click nest. Okay. Okay, now you're gonna find where your speed ramp ends, which is pretty easy to find because it slows down quite a bit, especially if you're shooting in 120 frames a second. And I've got it saved as a favorite, but you can search direction and it'll pull it right up, directional blur, and then you're just gonna drag that onto the clip. You're gonna go over to effects and controls. Now you're gonna drop down the direction and the blur length. So I'm gonna start, since this one's starting in, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna select these little clock icons, and this just keyframes it. And so we're gonna want this to be blurry and then go clear, essentially. So we're gonna set the blur length to 11. I've noticed that looks good. And then we're gonna set the direction to about 94%, and that looks pretty good. Now we're gonna scrub through, find where it slows down. And right where it slows down, I like to go back 3 frames. Boom. Add another keyframe by clicking this icon, forward 3 frames, and set these back to 0. And that will set it back to 0 and add another keyframe. Go ahead and render that out. Into that effect real quick so you guys can see it, full effect. There we go, nice little blur. Okay, so you got the directional blur and the speed ramp. Let's go to the next clip. Okay, so this clip here, so it's a little bit shaky, so I'm gonna cut it to where I like it. Now I'm gonna go over here and I'm going to search warp. That's gonna bring up warp stabilizer. I'm gonna drag that onto the clip. It's gonna analyze it over here on the left. It's analyzing it. Once that's done, then hopefully it'll look good. And if it doesn't, if it looks really distorted, then just change the percentage right here. Let's see what it looks like. It might be a little distorted. I've noticed like slow motion footage stabilizes a lot better too. It looks a lot better. Actually, it's pretty good. I'm gonna bump the level down to about 43. It's gonna have to restabilize it. Okay, cool. So on this clip, since in the edit, I had it going from in to out instead of this way. So I've got the warp stabilizer on, and this is another thing that you're gonna have to nest. So you're gonna wanna nest that, click OK, and then you're gonna go to right click, speed and duration, and then you're just gonna select reverse speed. And this just changes the direction, or essentially the starting point of your clip. So it's starting from the back end now and going in. So let's play that back. Pretty dang good, man. If you wanted to even spice it up some more, you can add a slight zoom, but we're gonna do that on the next clip. Okay, so this clip is pretty sweet. So it's going from the turret into out. Add a speed ramp on the end if we wanted to. Let's just say we want this clip to have a little bit more movement though, because I think it looks good, but it's not got enough movement for the feel of the video that we just edited. So let's go ahead and we're gonna keyframe in a zoom, and this is the final thing that I'm gonna show you guys today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select scale and position, maybe even some rotation if we decide to. I've added some rotation in that edit quite a bit, so we'll do it just for this video's sake. So I'm gonna crank it in a little bit, maybe around 120, 125, let's say. Now, let's play back and see what way our okay, so adding some zoom and adding some rotation is just gonna sell the effect more. So I'm just gonna add a little bit, cut off the black bars in the corner, make sure there's no black on your corners. Okay, so now that we've got those added at the beginning, okay, now we're gonna scrub through the clip to where it's gonna end. And this is adding that zoom in to out with the clip going in to out already is just gonna give it more movement and make it look more dynamic. I've also done this with drone shots, and it makes it look almost like an airplane flying, just because the drone's already moving at a lot of speed, and then you're just adding more speed to almost give it that helicopter airplane look, which is kind of cool. So I'm gonna find where a good ending point is, cut it, and then I'm just gonna add another keyframe. And all I'm gonna do, since I want these to just go back to the standard settings, I'm just gonna hit the reset button on all of these clips, and it's just gonna add another keyframe. Boom, reset the rotation, reset the zoom. I didn't play anything with the position, so we're good there. And then I'm just gonna drag these to the end so that we don't get any black bars showing. Cool, now let's play that back. Alright guys, so there you have it. Those are 4 tips that I can give you guys when editing your videos. And those are the 4 biggest things that I used in the B-roll of the AR-15. And I hope that you can find something useful here. Some of it you might know, some of it you might not. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to get back to as many as I can. If you like this video, drop me a like. It helps a lot. And then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks a lot guys. We'll see you on the next one.